பெண்டிங் இருக்கா அவ்வளோதான் வராங்களா?
வராங்க சார்.
நீங்கள் ஒரு டெக்ஸ்ட் மெசேஜ்னா ஃபரூக் நம்பருக்கு வருது. ஃபோன் இது ஆக்டிவாக இருக்கா? ஃபரூக் நம்பரை இதுன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. ஸ்டோர் ஆகிடுதா? ஒரு மெசேஜ் போட்டுருக்கேன். கெஸ்ட் ஜாயின் எல்லாரும் அசம்பிள் பண்ணி வீட்டில் தான் நாங்கள் பண்ணிகிட்டே இருக்கோம். லைஃப் ஸ்டைல் வந்து அவங்க
லைவ் தான்.
மெயில் இது காமிக்குது.
மெயில் லைவ்ல வரும்.
மேம் ஆடியோ அதில் கேட்குதா லைவில்?
ஜஸ்ட் 2 பேரும் ஜாயின் பண்ணுங்க.
2 பேரும் ஜாயின்
இது அசம்பிள் ஆகிட்டாங்க ஃபஸ்ட்டு.
அசம்பிள் ஓகே வச்சிட்டேன்.
யூடியூப் வருதா?
சரி, இல்லை இதில் பார்க்க முடியாது. இது எதுவும் மாற்ற முடியாது. இங்கே தான்.
இல்லை அங்கே வருதான்னு பார்க்கணுமா?
வருதான்னு பார்க்கணும். இவங்க பேசுகிறதுக்கு மேம் ஆடியோ வந்து அதில் கனெக்ட் பண்ணி வச்சுக்கோங்க. பேச ஆரம்பிக்கும் போது கேட்குறாங்க. யூடியூப்ல
சரி, முன்னாடி பேசுனதே
welcome each and everyone present here for HR Conclave MOE Work Ecosystem, the new paradigm for next gen. All the clever strategies and advanced technologies in the world are no bad without great people to put them to work. Myself, Vinod Subhamar, your host,
Sorry, host.
for today's panel discussion.
Warm and great welcome makes it very rich. I call upon Destina Kenan for the welcome address.
Financial resources may be the lifeblood of a company, but human resources are the brains. Good morning. A warm welcome from Vishwanath Kenneth of CAD Business School. It gives me immense pleasure to start this auspicious day by happily welcoming everyone to the HR Conclave on the theme Work Ecosystem, the new paradigm for the next decade. Now I welcome our chief guest, Mr. Abhishek Singh, Manager Human Resource at Mahindra Holidays and Resorts India Limited, and Mr. Ramakrishna Nagmala, Chief Human Resource Officer of Home First Finance Company. I also welcome Mr. R. Venkatesh, Head of the Department at CAD Business School, for moderating the session, and all of our faculty members for being the pillars of strength in organizing this event. I also welcome each and every one of you for today's conclave.
Thank you, Destina. I officially over to take the opportunity to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Abhishek Singh, Manager Human Resources, Mahindra Holidays and Resort India Limited. He is a highly focused person, got his MBA from Banaras Hindu University. He is experienced in working as an assistant HR manager, particularly in unit of IT skill and as an executive holidays president, one of the top global corporation. He is not only an expert in HR and also innovative personality.
We can call it we can call it a double dhamaka day. Next, we have Mr. Ramakrishna Vyamajala, Chief HR Manager in Home First Finance Company. He has deep knowledge in HR domain and has served in wide range of organizations such as Vedanta Resources PLC and IDFC Bank. Now, I invite Mr. R. Venkatesh, Head of our Business School, to begin with the session. Please, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And a warm welcome to Mr. Ramakrishna and Mr. Abhishek Singh. Let's get started now. The last decade brought an avalanche of change of the HR industry, be it the rise of artificial intelligence, the growth of gig economy, the increased push towards diversity, and most recently, the global pandemic, which altered the reality of millions and redefined where and how work gets done. That begs the question, what's in store for the future, especially for HR professionals, because they are the pillars of any organization. So to discuss on this, we have an elite panelists, Mr. Ramakrishnan and Mr. Abhishek Singh. I wholeheartedly welcome you both, sir. And before we go into the details, let us have an overview from each one of you. So let me get started with Mr. Ramakrishna. You can give your thoughts, initial thoughts on work ecosystem.
Thanks, Venkatesh. I think, warm welcome to all of you students. I'm no crystal ball gazer, okay? So I don't think I'll be able to predict the future for you guys. One thing that I will definitely tell, and what the last 16 years that I've been working has taught me, is that you just need to be prepared by working hard on what you have got at that point in time. Do it sincerely, and then be open for the next change that's going to hit you. So be it the 2008 crisis, be it the rise of financial services that we saw in between, and then the pandemic. I mean, so we've seen it all. I wouldn't say we've seen it all, but quite a bit has happened during this period. And the kind of and the indication to the future is that this will continue to evolve. So the pandemic has given rise to a different sets of organizations. So therefore, say a traditional organization will have the competition coming from to it from very different types of organizations. So for example, I mean, we didn't have companies like Cred or Postpay, which is buy now, pay later. The very different type of organizations have now started coming into our world, and traditional organizations like a bank are now getting competed by such spaces. So, as an HR person, I think the foremost responsibility is to ensure that. The organization that you represent is able to navigate this uncertainty. So how do you ensure there is a lot of communication within the organization? How do you ensure your talent supply is continuous? So if you are hiring from traditional sources and they no longer exist, the sources do no longer exist, how do you quickly change so that you get people into the organization from non-traditional sources? So the change is something that will become critical for an HR person, and that's what we've seen. I'm not just in the downturn. I think even in the upturn, when everything was going good, there was a lot of challenges. I mean, right now the challenges seem very little, but at that point in time, they were difficult times for us, even as HR professionals, to kind of ensure that the growth is not tapering out. The expectations keep going up. So you will have to keep abreast with the changing technology, changing kind of people that come in, all of that. So there are multiple challenges that as an HR person you'll have to be equipped to manage, and that's something that we always strive to do.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Ramakrishna, for your initial thoughts. And you said, as you said, the change is the only thing that keeps us moving towards our distant dream, and it keeps evolving. Fine. And Mr. Abhishek, can we have your initial thoughts before we get into the details of discussion? Mr. Abhishek? Just hold on a second. I think this call now. Sorry, apologies from our side as well. Mr. Abhishek has got an immediate call from one of his clients, so he has to leave for some time. So he'll be back in another half an hour or so. So till such time, we could have the expertise of Ramakrishna sir shared with us.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks for understanding. And so one thing is that corporate has certain expectations, and on the other hand, the freshers who's coming out of graduating out of IIMs or just out of graduation, they have their own expectations. So how the process of acquisition is done to acquire the right people for the right job. On the one side, we have a lot of jobs in hand, trying to find the right kind of person. On the other side, we have a pool of talent who are still searching for the correct fit.
So I think there is no magic wand to kind of fit these two people. I mean I've been doing this for 15 years now. I see every year we try and figure out what would be the right fit. We succeed 50-60% of the time, and we don't succeed 50% of the time. I think it has to do with some part of it has to do with the curriculum itself. I mean the practical exposure in the curriculum. For example, I hire a lot of people in sales for our organization. So how many of them would have done door-to-door sales or door-to-door experience of doing door-to-door sales, or understanding what it means to set up a camp in the middle of a market and try and create awareness about the product that you're trying to sell. This kind of exposure sometimes is not given in colleges. A lot of colleges, some of them do, some of them absolutely don't. So when I hire the person and get them to do this job when they are supposed to do it in the organization, a lot of them don't really align to that kind of a role. Be it, I mean, not just saying sales. I mean, even when you're looking at getting them to do a strategy role, initial years, the strategy role will be a lot of data. Somebody has to just sit and clean up a lot of data before you even start analyzing it. And then decision making will come a lot forward. So when you start off in a lot of roles that these people will be exposed to, there is a lot of grunt work that happens which they're not exposed to. And most B schools glamorize the jobs that you do. I mean, there is you'll always have case studies about very, very successful people who run large enterprises, and everybody starts aspiring to be that day one after they pass out of the college. Not that they've taken 15, 20, 30 years to kind of make what they've made. So that gap of that period where you have to do a lot of grunt work, kind of expose yourself, do things that you may not have expected to do, is something that becomes the barrier in this whole expectation mismatch issue. So I think a lot of practical exposure in the 2 years that they spend in these schools is critical. So one of the things that we do is give a lot of internship opportunities. So at least you do that and you realize whether you want to do this in the future or you don't want to do this in the future. Spend a lot of time with interns, and that's a critical aspect in our senior teams KRAs, that you give the right exposure and understanding to the students who come in as interns, so that then when they actually want to get into the job, they're very clear on what it is that the job entails, and are they ready to do that. I mean, giving that exposure. The second piece is a lot of research on the student side. I think most of them lack a bit of research skill, or kind of need to do research. I mean, you sit for an interview, half the time you don't even know what kind of organization, what are the products that they sell, let alone trying to understand the culture of that place. And so if you know of certain people, you should go and try and understand the organization a lot better before you apply for that organization. So a bit of research from the student side, and exposure from the organization side. I think both of them have to walk a lot of steps towards each other to bridge this whole expectation mismatch issue. And then you will start seeing that there's a lot less issues around that, and a lot more people who are satisfied with the jobs that they get, and a lot of organizations who will be satisfied with the people that they get into their organizations.
Well, rightly said, Ramakrishna. So the corporates are coming forward with internship programs that will help them in their onboarding process as well. Also, the students has to do some research on the company side. So that has to be carried out.
Yeah.
And on the same line, every organization has its own vision, values, and culture. So, how do you translate that to the newly joined people? Is there any regular module or something like that, so that they get to understand the real vision of the organization and get adapted to the culture of the working environment?
Yeah, I think the first part of the induction generally focuses on, and like in our organization, most other organizations also, the first part of the induction is about trying to understand the culture of the place, the smell of the place, the view of the place. So every organization is different, and they've been successful in the ways they have been, and therefore it is for the students who join them, or the employees, the new employees that join them, to kind of mix with the culture of the organization, the place, and kind of uh, get imbibed. So two parts to the story. One is, and what is culture? I mean, it also boils down to what is the definition of culture. It is about the kind of decisions you will take when you are faced with a question mark. Okay, if you have a decision that you have to take, whether you want to explain the full thing to the customer, or do you want to only give them the gist of this the whole story. So if the organization says, okay, you have to explain it, even if you were to lose that customer, please explain to the detail, to the last T and the last I. That means that place has, I mean, transparency becomes the important pillar of that place. Whereas the organization which says, okay, you need to ensure that you're able to complete the deal, and that is important. So what you need to speak to ensure that you close the deal, then aggression, cutthroat competition, that's the kind of an organization, that's the kind of space that you're getting into. I mean, I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. It is different in different places. So trying to understand what is the kind of decisions you will have to take when faced with a situation is important aspect. So you'll have to ask a lot of questions. So what we do, and a lot of other organizations also do it, is a two-pronged approach. One is give them a lot of theory, as in talk about it. The senior management speaks about it. The CEO shares his or her experiences. The senior teams will do a lot of one-on-ones, etc. So that's one part of imbibing them into the culture. The second part of imbibing them into the culture will be around giving them a buddy or a friend at work. I mean, some of them call it buddy, some of them call it mentor, some of them call it friend at work. That is also an important aspect. So somebody who is close to them, who kind of works with them on a daily and an ongoing basis, because this is a slow process. It's not going to, I mean, it's not like we create one module on culture and they go through that program for 6 hours and then they become part of the culture of that place. So it doesn't happen that way. So because there are a lot of nuances to, I mean, there are no straight answers, and you can't imbibe a culture or on a 6-hour program or a 10-hour program. So what happens is this buddy then constantly and consistently explains how decisions are taken, how we approach a customer, how we approach fellow employees, and so on and so forth. So all of that becomes part of the culture, and therefore having a constant companion who's explaining to you on an ongoing basis becomes a very important part of imbibing into the culture or getting assimilated into a workplace. So that's something that a lot of organizations do, including ours.
Well said. It is not a one-time affair. It has to be a continuous process that will mold them to be a better employee. Being from the educational institutions front and understanding the current generation's feelings and things like that. So they wanted to explore something, they want to do something new and things like that. So how well the corporates welcome these intrapreneurs? What is the space for intrapreneurs in the organizations?
I think it depends on an organization to organization and the stage at which the organization is. For example, an organization which has established processes, for example, the entrepreneurs need to look at opportunities as changes, small changes that they can bring about in the way things are done. you won't have big product ideas that you will come up with. So, for example, there is a financial services company which deals in home loans, which is for example, ours. Single product, we don't have 20,000 things that we do. We do it consistently well. We ensure that the customer's experience is great. That is our forte. So the entrepreneurs therefore have to focus on how do I substantially improve the customer experience? How do I ensure my product is delivered to the person? Say, for example, we have to do it in 48 hours. Can I do it in 46 hours? Can I do it in 44 hours? I mean, there are small steps, but will make a substantial improvement. Whereas that will be kind of, and so, for example, if you join a startup or an organization which has multi products, or which is trying to get into different products, in such organizations the canvas would be a little wilder, as in you may have to come up with some breakthrough ideas, something where you are trying to come up with a new product line or a new segment of customers that you will start approaching, which you've not been approaching. So very different organizations will have different requirements, but what is consistent is that if you do not encourage these entrepreneurs, organizations will come to a standstill. I mean, you will not improve. So therefore, it is in the interest of the organization to help these entrepreneurs, push them, give them the support. So every organization will do it, but they will do it in different measures. And I think the students need to understand, if you are going into an organization, so if you join a organization which is selling soaps, don't tell them to get into financial services. I mean, so you will have to also be a little more cognizant of the fact of the stage of the organization. If they're doing well, it's a good place. You have to respect what they've done to get there, and you can't